Get your stinking rat out. It's late night large.
Welcome to the show that's a perennial flight risk, Lockdown Large. Armed and harmless is me, Aaron Bliss, while legendarily legless is Mike Large.
Evening.
Evening, Mike. How are we growing this week?
30, really? Is ever? No, yeah, it's growing all right, isn't it? I mean,
Are we feeling
sorry?
Are you feeling? Are we the collective we? Are we feeling as if things are drifting back to normal, in inverted commas?
For the royal we? Yes and no. Because, I mean, obviously we've got all the fuel bullshit going on now, haven't we? So, I mean, what the fuck is normal anymore? I don't think any of us really remember, do we?
No, that's very true. It's one of those people, the royal we again, we tend to have very short memories. So when people talk about normal or a crisis, 3 months it's forgotten. People forget what it was like. So it's almost, this is why Brexit has almost completely gone under the radar. The effects of Brexit, obviously, they're finding it harder and harder to keep the effects out of reality. But remember back in 2019, before COVID, before the transition period had ended and Brexit was official, etc., how many people really remember exactly what life was like then? So many things have happened since then. It's just, calamity upon calamity.
Yeah, just literally our lives are a big fucking clusterfuck of bullshit, aren't they?
Yeah, it's calamity.
But hey, great, cool.
Just when you need to have a really competent bunch of men and women steadying the ship, we've had a bin fire, complete bin fire. Speaking of bin fires, as Mike mentioned, I'm sure we're all still feeling the effects of fuel crisis, or as some people like to call it, the full crisis.
Yeah,
because it's almost a domino effect of fools. So this fuel crisis, which didn't need to be a crisis, is almost what do they call it? The Mandela effect. When something that you want to keep under control, keep a lid on, by mentioning it, you then cause the problem that you tried to. Yeah. So that's what's happened, where we've got a government of fools who has their propaganda arm, i.e. the press and most of the media, who then write foolish headlines, which then get a lot of hysteria whipped up, and the kind of fools that we're seeing on forecourts are panic buying petrol, thereby causing a domino effect where the likes of you and me, more you than me, I'll admit, because I need fuel for leisure purposes. I don't need it for work. I'm very lucky. A lot of people do need it for work, i.e. they potentially won't be paid if they can't drive to work. And it's just a quick rant, Mike, because we'll stick to COVID, but I don't know if you've had the same problems with filling up. So I went away, I was on annual leave the other week, perfect time, just when the fuel crisis had hit, because I didn't have much fuel in my car. So I think I better stop at services, because if you go to a small station, then the road's half blocked up with traffic queuing to get in. So it's like, if I go to a services, at least the queue will not be really awkward for everyone, etc. Well, it took me an hour to get fuel, and worse than that, I thought, which I found incredible, because we're talking about services. It's not a tiny little petrol station that's skeleton staff. This is a services, so they should have plenty of staff available. They knew this was coming. Why not hire an additional staff member, at least, to stand on the forecourt and direct people to where the fuel is available that they need? Yeah, make things run smoother. I get there, I approach the forecourt, and there's obviously how many lanes? Chaos. No one knows what's happening. They've completely ran out of the big yellow neon out of fuel clips that they put on the pumps. They've started putting grotty carrier bags on them. So you can't actually tell unless you're very close up whether they're out of fuel or the fuel you need. No one's given any directions. People having to get out their vehicles, have a closer look, etc., etc. Anyway, after an hour, I managed to get away from there. And, you know, you're looking across and you see these puffins. They're filling up these big military-style jerry cans. Now, those are the kind of people that you hope take them home and blow themselves up accidentally. Because what is it about don't panic buy fuel that these idiots don't understand?
No, it's not. Well, okay. So
I get that people filling up their vehicles. I get people can't get to work and whatever without vehicles. Cool. I get that. But you're going to have to cope with it. You have got your fuel to keep your vehicle running. That's all you need and that's all you deserve. You don't deserve to fill up another massive couple of jerry cans to deny potentially emergency vehicles and whoever else their fuel.
This is the problem, isn't it? It's you have these issues, as always. They are usually caused by the media. Then they become reality because of idiots. Idiots make the media's propaganda reality. They turn that into reality.
Mm-hmm.
They lap it up and then they just go and do whatever stupid thing is suggested or not suggested but suggested. The issue then with these things, nearly always then the issue is exacerbated by people who maybe aren't so stupid but are incredibly selfish, and that's the problem. And then by the time you've taken the stupid and the selfish out of the population,
then you just got the desperate.
I mean, what really are you left with? That is a huge percentage of our population are one or both of those things.
So are we saying, Mike, that we the desperate plead with the stupid and the selfish?
No. See, I would be saying that, but we know now there is no point. There is no point. You can't reason with stupid, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you appeal to selfish? They don't care about what you say or what you think or what you need or So it's almost a complete. Just save your breath, save your effort. Don't bother. Like, you know, all you can do to really help is behave in the way that you should. So we'll take this example, the fuel thing. Don't be an idiot. Don't be selfish. That's all you can do, because you will have to get fuel. You will have to go and use a petrol station as you otherwise normally would. That will still happen. So unfortunately, your experience is going to be shit because of the stupid and the selfish. But, you know, one thing I would say is, you know, there may be other people now there that are the same as you, that have waited as long as they can, and it's like, well, now I have to get fuel, you know. So if you are in a long queue, and I have found this difficult, if you are in a queue of people and there's just idiots everywhere, not everyone in that queue is either going to be stupid or selfish. Some people are just like you, that are just fucked and backed into a corner and have no choice but to use a petrol station for its intended purpose. So
maybe would we suggest, Mike, that maybe people could take some kind of rotten eggs in their car, and then if they see some particular twat filling up a massive jerry can, just like pelt them with eggs or something.
Well, I mean, suggest,
Or
make,
piss bottles.
actively encourage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what would be? I
Go on.
just had this really amusing scenario where what you do is you drive around with your own, one of those military style jerry cans. In fact, you can have various. So you have one military jerry can, and then you have one smaller jerry can. And what you do is you fill both of them up right to the top with your own piss.
Excellent.
And you keep an eye on people going into fuel stations if you live near to one. And as soon as you see some twat with one of those jerry cans, look for your opportunity. Maybe they have to leave it just outside the shop when they go to pay for it.
Mm.
Just switch them over. Just have a quick switcheroo. Take their fuel, leave them with a big jerry can full of piss. Everyone's a winner.
I can't see a problem with that.
No, not at all.
You should do that, people. No, but I mean, I've seen people with that actually seen, fucking hell. I saw right. So I had to go to a petrol station. I had no choice. Running on fumes. I didn't want to go prior to that for numerous reasons. Partially because I didn't want to make the issue worse.
Yeah.
But mostly, if I'm honest, because I had no patience for fucking morons and that sort of bullshit. And I get road rage anyway. So I just was like, no, I must avoid petrol stations for as long as I possibly can. I had no choice. And, so I bit the bullet. And I saw there was some woman there in a big 4x4.
I already know where this is going.
She's got 4 jerry cans, and she stood there, and she's making a right fucking mess of it as well. It's not hard, but and she's there pissing off. I'm waiting to get in. I can see this. I'm thinking, you are literally a cunt. You're a cunt. I hope you slip on that spilt fuel and die. Harsh. At that point, I probably did think that. Probably did. On reflection, a bit harsh, but fuck's sake, absolute cunt. And I look further down. This is why I was avoiding them. I look further down and I see someone there, truck, trailer. On this trailer, big fucking tanker, clear tanker, filling that fucker up. And I'm just thinking, unbelievable.
But
unbelievable.
Mike, do you? We've already established. Your point was well made. We've established that there are 2 groups that are very, very difficult to change their behaviour, which is the terminally selfish and the terminally stupid. We know that is very unlikely that only a select few of these groups will ever have their minds changed about anything. So, knowing this, that stupid people will do stupid things and selfish people will look after themselves only to the detriment of others. Do you agree with my point that it was very frustrating that a lot of forecourts and petrol stations did not hire or rather staff an additional staff member? I mean, the additional fuel sales pay for the staff member. Have an additional staff member there, not only to tell people which fuel is available at which pump, but to stop fucking idiots from doing that, as in filling up massive jugs and tankers.
What I would say, whilst I agree with the premise, what I would say is it's not always possible. You can't always just pull a member of staff out your ass to go and do a job.
We're talking about something that they had notice of there, Mike. This isn't something that happened overnight.
Again, well, I'd say there are scenarios where people could have done more. I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying reserve some judgment, because there will definitely be scenarios where people probably wanted to do more and couldn't. Like
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not. I am definitely not saying every petrol station manager or whatever was a muppet because they just decided to not hire additional staff for the day, or whatever, or the weeks that this goes on. But Mike, I guess
also you can't just hire people because.
Sorry, what I meant staff people, existing staff. Use your existing staff pool wiser. But pay people overtime. Like I say, you're selling so much fucking fuel, it pays for the people's wages.
Assuming you have people that want it.
Well, I
also,
don't.
There is still a whole COVID thing going on.
Look, all I'm saying, Mike, is this also plugs into how the COVID thing's been dealt with. The wider point I was trying to make was, I get a bit tired, and this, don't get me wrong, this comes from the government down. You know this as well as I do. Blame culture, right? What I mean is, there's a crisis. Why haven't you done this? Oh, well, these fucking people, they're to blame. They've done all this. Yeah, I'm not blaming you, but can you do this? Because this will make it easier. Well, we didn't cause this. No, I'm not saying you caused it. I'm just saying if you did this, it would make things a little bit easier, like grease the wheels, make things just a little bit easier on this end. We know the petrol stations didn't cause the fuel crisis. We know the petrol stations didn't write the headlines that said, oh my God, there's shortage of fuel. But what can they do? They can do this, which will make things a little bit easier. The fact that they chose not to do it, and I haven't seen any statements where fuel stations are going, oh, it was chaos, we tried to get in extra staff, but we couldn't. That leads me to believe, and I know it's just speculation, that a lot of them, again, not all of them, because generalizations don't help anyone, but I think a lot of them probably just sat back, watched the profits roll in, like, hey, look at those silly cunts, we're making record profits. But I digress. Other than the profit thing, what I was trying to say, Mike, is we just seem to have got into this thing of there's a problem, oh, they're to blame. And it's like, no, we don't care who's to blame. Just do this thing on your end that you can affect. Like, you can affect this thing. Please affect this thing to make things better. Don't just like grind your teeth and say, oh, things are so bad because of them. Just do things your end and we'll try and deal with the people who are really to blame.
What, like what though?
Like what? Close down all national newspapers.
Right. Okay. So you have no realistic example then.
What, except censorship of the press? Well, I mean, where'd you go? It's a domino effect again, isn't it? Why did we leave the single market and customs union? That would have prevented this happening in the first place. Why did we not deal with the incoming HGV driver shortage, which apparently has been in the works for probably a decade and a half? Why did the Prime Minister, having all this information well in advance, not bother coming up with any kind of scheme that might ameliorate it? Why did the petrol stations, when they had advance notice of this, not do anything to make it better on their end? Another thing, Mike, related to this, and by the way, this is kind of related to COVID, because we're still trying to stay out of each other's grills, right? One thing we still know about COVID, don't get too close to people when you don't need to. Unless you're fucking them, you don't need to be right up in someone's grill, even outside. We've seen people grappling, getting into punch-ups at fuel stations, shouting at each other, which obviously spit everywhere. I'm sure none of them are washing their hands. This kind of rank stupidity. Do you know what else I read, Mike? Apparently, breakdown companies claimed that there were record call-outs for people putting the wrong fuel in their cars and vans.
Yeah, I've seen this. Yeah.
Just think about that for a minute, right?
Well,
I'm not saying, by the way, that it's ridiculous that anyone would ever put the wrong fuel in. Everyone makes mistakes. We've all puffed up now and again. Mike's done moronic things before. I've done things where I've just gone, how the fuck have you done that? You absolute puffin. We all do it from time to time because we're not robots, we're human beings. But extenuating circumstances, the time you make a mistake at a fuel forecourt is when your mind's elsewhere. You're thinking about, I don't know, the family or a problem at work. Absent-mindedly, you're not thinking, fuck, look what I've done. Now, if you're queuing for an hour at forecourt, your mind is only on, shit, have I got the fuel that I need? Is there going to be enough fuel? Your mind should only be on the task in hand. How have you managed to put the wrong fuel in?
I don't know. One thing I would say, two things. Firstly, is this increase in people putting the wrong fuel in their cars? Are we talking by percentage of like fuel transactions?
To be fair, I think what they said was the average they would expect per week or month or whatever.
Yeah,
hadn't changed that much. It was just a massive increase in the volume of people who were getting it at the same time.
I imagine if there's 2 per 100,000 that do it when they fuel up, well, there's going to be.
But do you see what I'm saying, Mike? It's not so much that there was a drastic increase. It's why is anyone doing it at all in the circumstance? Because your mind should only be on the fuel that you're getting.
We've kind of. I feel like we've kind of almost answered this already, haven't we? No. Who are the people? Who are the people that were causing the issue?
Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're chalking this up to the stupid. I take it.
Well, I think that's fair enough, don't you?
Yeah, I think
I'll go on a limb. I'm going to go on a limb, and I'm going to say that
it's the Dunning-Kruger type.
99% of the people that have done that recently are stupid. There'll be some that are just, you know what, just absent-minded for another reason, and it's just bollocks, twat, cunt, fuck. Or I thought I had my car, but I've got the missus or whatever it is, and I put them up. That okay, fine. That does happen. People are human. But we know who's at these fucking petrol stations every other chance they get, putting their fuel in, fucking filling shit up and wankers. Right? They're stupid. So is there any wonder that there's been an increase in stupidity?
I'm looking forward to seeing whether there will be an increase in people blowing themselves up. Because
fingers crossed.
Yeah, because I mean that increases, because if you're stupid enough when you've been told by important people, I know the government not particularly trustworthy or intelligent, but when they're telling you and other people are saying, just fuel your vehicle, don't fill up other vessels and whatever, other people need fuel. If you're dumb enough or brazen enough to just ignore that and fill up a massive jerry can, you're brazen enough to take that home, keep it like possibly in your house, and then light a cigarette in the vicinity. So we can but hope that these idiots join the Darwin Hall of Fame.
Fingers crossed. I mean, that one thing I did see that a lot of them, although some of them are kind of stopped now, a lot of them did put like £30 limits on.
Yeah.
And then they'd stop your pump once you got to 30 quid.
That's a cheapskate way of doing it, isn't it? Because it means you don't have to hire any additional staff. You just get the existing couple of guys on the till to just go, right, 30, cut it off.
Yeah, but as we've established, that's not always just possible. But can you tell
that Mike is a store manager,
right,
and I can't really stomach managerial people. I don't have a very high opinion of them. Other than you, Mike, obviously.
Those decisions, if they were made or not made, would have been at a corporate level anyway. Do you know what I mean? The poor fuckers working there or trying to manage the unit, that ain't their fault.
By the
Are you
way,
telling me any one of them wouldn't have more?
Hey, you know me. I would in no way blame the cashiers, the dog's bodies who go in, punch in and out. They're just trying to make a living, blah blah. But we know that when you get to managerial level, you've generally, your nose is pretty brown. You've paid your dues in whatever way. You get the bigger bucks because you make these kind of decisions. So I'm blaming them. Don't give me this, oh, corporate wouldn't let me have any additional staff. But look at all the additional profits you made. You sold 10 grand of fuel.
I'm telling you now, the managers of these petrol stations do not decide what they do with their profit. I'll tell you that now. So, but anyway, what else was I saying? What was I saying? What we said about people blowing themselves up?
Yeah, we were saying we hope that there's a few of these twats that are filling these massive jerry cans who blow themselves up. Darwin Award.
That's right.
Material.
Well, yeah, no. Let's hope so. Let's hope so.
We can but hope karma comes back to blow them apart.
I'm sure there was something else I was going to say there though. No, got sidetracked.
Sugar.
Got sidetracked.
Sugar in the gas tank.
That was it. How do you know?
I'm surprised we haven't also seen stories of fuel thieves. The old siphoning with the rubber hoses.
I've seen stories.
Have you? So people,
yeah.
What people have like gone round to vehicles like at night and whatever and siphoned.
Yeah. Sealing fuel out of like diesel out of vans.
Jesus.
I've seen stories of people breaking into people's sheds to take the petrol out of their lawnmowers.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is the vision of the golden future that awaits us. Meanwhile, all the electric vehicle owners are just sat back.
As if they weren't fucking smug enough anyway.
Mike, if I could afford an electric vehicle, I'd be just as fucking smug. So, okay, so we've had a bit of a rant at the fuel crisis. Yeah, don't worry though, because Bozza's sent in the army. He's sent in a few hundred army goons to, get the tankers to petrol stations, and presumably that will now be the long-term plan because there doesn't seem to be any other plan. So who knows? Christmas is ruined, but we knew that already. So we are potentially heading for a winter of discontent. But let's go back immediately to COVID. So Mike, we thought we'd have a little update with the scores on the board. One thing that's a little bit concerning, Mike, is according to the Guardian's latest figures, considering the Fatberg made a real song and dance about how he personally, the NHS, was world beating in its vaccine rollout. We're the envy of the planet, and particularly Europe, with our vaccine rollout. We've really stalled badly. So we were told, I believe, 80% is the figure you need to look for natural herd immunity, 80% fully vaccinated population. We were rocketing through the first vaccinations, and then we were going at a fair pace initially with the second vaccinations. We've ground to almost a halt, it seems. Weeks have gone by since we passed 50%. Well, months, I think. And we're still only just over 67% fully vaccinated. Is that something to worry about? Do you think there's...
I don't know. I think...
Because we're heading rapidly into autumn. It's a bit...
What I would say is, or what I would ask, rather, you to maybe think about is, what do we blame for that? Or rather, who do we blame for that? Because
I think there could be a lot of factors. I don't think there's one, as much as I'd like to say, it's all the clowns' fault. I think there are probably a few factors. Obviously, you can never discount the misinformation campaigns from the anti-vax lobby and those dingbats who think it's a massive conspiracy.
it was always going to slow down, though, wasn't it? Because there were always going to be people that were like, yeah, ASAP, let's get it done, get it in there, fucking, let's have it. And then there were always going to be those that naturally drag their heels, or those that were kind of umming and ahhing. And then, of course, those that are digging their heels in that are, no. And then, do you know what I mean? It was always going to slow down. It was never going to continue at the same pace.
But I mean, 67, we're still nowhere near that 80% figure. Do you think it's I haven't seen a breakdown of the figures. Presumably a lot of that is the younger generation. Do you think there's a problem with the younger generation still believing this very misguided thing of like, oh, I'm young and I'm fit, even though we've literally seen gym bros, women who run marathons being struck down and wiped out by long COVID, or even dying from it?
Listen, I think there's lots of problems with the younger generation. So don't get me fucking started, right, on that. But yeah, I think there is a little bit of that. I think it's kind of the hysteria has died down a bit now, hasn't it? It's not like, oh my god, this COVID thing is going to come and kill you. Like people are used to it now. People live with it. Like the vaccine isn't new anymore. It's not a new thing. Again, it's just a thing that happens, and there's no real kind of hysteria around that anymore either. So it's, I just think it's probably just not really a thing for them. I'm not saying it shouldn't be, but I think it's probably.
Do you think this could spell trouble down the line? Could this contribute to a bit of a nightmare winter?
I mean, well, of course it could. It's difficult. It's difficult to say. I mean, the thing is, right? You can talk about who's to blame all you like, and there are those that say, well, blaming isn't gonna help, and point fingers. That's not gonna help the situation. Agreed. But if you don't know where it's gone wrong, you don't know how to fix it.
Yeah.
So it's I don't know. I think we need to try. I think we do need to kick on. But the reason I asked you is because how do we do that if we don't know what the reason for us basically fucking grinding to a halt? If we don't understand what that is, how do we fix it?
Well, no, you're right. I think the government seems to be flailing around at the minute. I've noticed that they are trying to target specific advertisements for vaccination by basically trying to say to young people, oh, you don't want to miss out. You don't want to miss out on the big freshers events and this and that, and implying that you could miss out if you haven't been vaccinated.
And in a way, I'll say it. Fair play for that. That at least they are fucking taking action. At least they are doing something. Now you can say it's not enough, or you can say, well, you should do this or you should do that, but at least they're not completely sitting on their hands and doing nothing.
Yeah, it's one of the few things that the government does seem to be very enthusiastic about and taking like proactive action on. Almost everything else seems to come as a complete surprise to them. Oh, we've got enough HGV drivers. Oh, there's
I think this again. No, I don't know. Do we blame the stupid again? Is that what we do? I mean, I'll tell you who's not to blame is obviously that, although they are the good people kind of making this work, and they always were, and they're the reason that ever went well in the first place. Obviously, the NHS. We don't. Our friends in the NHS, they are not to blame.
Just on that,
and they're short-staffed as well. Let's not.
Yeah, I mean that makes me. It makes me angry every day. I just have to forget about it because you know, anyone who's listening, this has been deliberately happening for a decade now, but more and more stuff's coming out. You know, there's hospitals and parts of the NHS that are literally on the verge of collapse. This has been deliberately engineered. Brexit voters, why aren't you demanding that the £350 million made up figure is going towards the NHS? Why aren't you on the streets demanding that? These people are desperate. They're saying there's not enough resources. There's a lack of nurses, a lack of doctors. People are being burned out. They've got a shitty excuse for a pay rise, which with inflation is effectively a pay cut. You know, the government's been taking the piss out of them. We need to have their back and say they were the shining light in this crisis. Why the fuck are we forgetting about them now? So I'm completely on board with that. And they've made this the success it is. And the government have responded by basically thumbing their nose and saying, yeah, your pay rise is going to just be bungled to our mates who keep us in power and donate fortunes to the party, who get revealed in the Pandora Papers to be hiding basically criminal money in all kinds of tax havens. But I digress. So yeah, I've also seen a lot of stuff about NHS staff getting threatened and abused by anti-vax people. Like, all I can hope is that the same people who are doing this abuse are the same people who are filling up their jerry cans and then they go home and they light a cigarette and they blow their scummy ass up, because you people are not welcome in the society that the rest of us are happy to be in. We don't want any of the kind of people who threaten doctors and nurses. Just fucking drown yourself or blow yourself up with a jerry can, because none of us want you living in the same place as the rest of us. And next time you need medical attention, I hope the ambulance takes too long to get to you. Because anyway, Mike, the obviously COVID is still being pretty much used as an excuse for everything by the government. You know, they've got as we're recording this, Tory Party conference. They're busy telling everyone about how they're building back better, but oh yeah, we failed on that. We didn't keep that promise. But it's COVID. It's COVID. It's all COVID. Even though, like you say, the majority of the population are pretty much thinking, oh, we're kind of okay. Things are, you know, like you say, there's a lot of huge irritants like food shortages, fuel shortages, but COVID has kind of slipped down the radar. People just don't seem that concerned anymore. But the government's still banging on because they need an excuse. How long do you think they'll be able to ride that out? Because there's a very real chance, Mike. I'm going to say it here because, I mean, this is not a revelation by any means. A lot of people have said it, and I've thought it for a while, that we are heading for a genuine winter of discontent to rival the original from 1978. You know, the long cold winter with the dead going unburied, rubbish in the streets, power outages, rolling strikes, a lot of it exaggerated for political purposes, but obviously there was a lot of strife, industrial strife and discontent in that winter that brought down the Labour government, and they were out of power for nearly 20 years. Do you think that we might be heading, I mean, we've already seen fuel shortages, food shortages. There's no long-term solution for those things. The government has not suggested anything that is anything like a long-term solution for those problems. Along with the potential for a COVID explosion, flu problems, the NHS already on its knees. Could we have, do you think, a winter of discontent even worse than 78?
The components are there, aren't they? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, the ingredients, yeah.
Yeah, all the ingredients that you need are there.
Let's not forget.
The recipe is fairly complete.
Yeah, let me just throw something in as well that we haven't even mentioned tonight, because it's not really to do with COVID, but it would apply to this potential winter of discontent. Nobody trusts the police. And by the police, I generally mean the Met. You know, I'm not going to go on an ACAB rant because I know there's certain people who that would completely turn them off. But let's face it, the Metropolitan Police is nobody trusts them at all now. So if we look at the capital of the country, London, and we add that to the mix, where black people have never really trusted the Met, women now don't seem to trust the Met. Men who kind of have empathy for other people are looking at the Met and thinking, what a fucking mess. Absolute state. You know, we've literally just had the copper that committed the acts against Sarah Everard being jailed. And in the same week, we've had all kinds of people coming out making excuses for Cressida Dick, the commissioner of the Met, her giving ridiculous advice like flag down a bus if you think you're in trouble and the arrest isn't by a credible police officer. And in the same week, we've just seen in the news, Mike, there's another Metropolitan Police officer has been charged with rape. The Met Police is possibly at its lowest ebb in terms of public trust. So you throw that into the mix in the capital, where apparently most of the hospital problems are felt really keenly, with all these other things. I mean, that's going to be catastrophic potentially in the capital.
Yeah, I mean, let's not. We have to be careful not to try and incite such things. Like, we don't want.
I would never do that, Mike. I'm just, like we say, we're saying the ingredients are being chucked into the bowl. We're not there stirring it. But we can see a cake for me.
Let's be sure that we don't. What you're like. But
for legal reasons, we must just state that this is any implications or inferences that any listener takes from this are solely their own, and that Late Night Large is not implying that any of these things are inevitable or encouraging these things to occur. Carry on, Mike.
However, they might. But no, look, I think all we can do is all we've been able to do for a couple of years now, which is cross our fingers, our toes, and hope that everything's all right. This is the problem, isn't there? Unfortunately, you're right. You touched on it. There are no answers. There appear to be no answers for most of these problems, these issues. Certainly nothing that can be changed by you or I. And again, you know, all we can do is try and be rational, reasonable, considerate members of society, whatever the issue is, or the problem is, and be understanding, show empathy for your fellow man, that sort of stuff, right? Unfortunately, though, as we keep being shown, and we go back to everything else we talked about, as we keep being shown, there's far too much stupid, there's far too much selfish, you know, and then there's far too much bullshit from, you know, the powers that be and their puppets. Yeah, there's just too much of it. There's too much of that to really be confident that anything will be handled well or correctly, or, you know, anything that could potentially be an issue. You think, well, no, that'll be all right, because, you know, but what we can't do is what Bojo tried to tell us to do, you know, just rely on the good old British resolve and, you know, trust people to use their common sense. Sorry, mate, how many fucking times do you need to be shown? People don't have any. So, you know, what else can the public do? What else can the populace do to show you, as if you don't already believe it, that is not a viable, like, plan? Rely on the public. No, please do not. Member of public here, hi, don't fucking rely on us. Do not rely on us. And when I say us, I'm using obviously the royal us. I don't mean myself or Aaron, although he's a bit of a prick. But I mean, generally, people don't ever fucking rely on them. Always assume the worst, and stop using it as a cop out from actually doing anything. People will let you down, and they will let each other down, and things will get blown out of proportion. Now more so than ever, when everyone is fucking sick to death of all the continuous bullshit. It's never ending. One thing doesn't even finish and something else starts. Now is the last time, absolutely the last time you want to be relying on people for anything. So to answer your original question, yeah, I do think there is a strong possibility of some form of winter of discontent. And yeah, maybe it is just cross your fingers, toes, bollocks. Don't do that. I wouldn't advise that actually. And hope that the NHS makes it through the winter. That there isn't a ridiculous flu spike this year to make what is already going to be fucking difficult winter like unbearably difficult, and they collapse. Because it could happen. It very much could happen. Large sections of the NHS could collapse if something drastic goes wrong this winter. So hope, it's all we can do on that, isn't it? It's all you or I can do, which I should say. And all the other issues that we cannot directly affect, we can either just hope, and like I said before, all we can actually do is try and be reasonable, decent members of society, and that may make some of these things slightly more bearable for us as a whole. Otherwise, yeah, we might be pretty fucked.
That's a good way to end that rant, Mike. I like that. Yeah, no, you are right. Listen, you might not be to blame. We might not be to blame. If you voted this cavalcade of clowns in, you're kind of to blame. But the point is, it's happening. A lot of these things are outside of the individuals or even the community's control. We have to roll with the punches and be good to each other, help each other out if we can, and be civil and not be dickheads to it. Don't be an arsehole, basically. The golden rule that we say to each other again.
I would just like to add a caveat to that. You don't be an arsehole point.
Yeah.
Now, I think while what he says is very true, don't be an arsehole. I would like to say that we do understand. We do understand the strong, burning desire to be an arsehole to arseholes. Well, I understand the desire to go up to a fucking pleb in a petrol station and punch them in the nose. I understand that. There they are, missing their jerry can because they're too busy licking their fucking windows. And yeah, I understand why you may want to shove the fucking nozzle up their arse and fucking hold it for dear life, right? I understand that. I do, I get it. And it will be tougher now more than ever, and increasingly potentially through the winter, as we've been alluding to avoid the temptation to do that. But people, please, the decent people among you, us, do try your hardest, because there will be enough that won't be trying.
Yes.
Do your bit.
Very good. Anyway,
And I will struggle as much as anyone else, by the way.
Yeah. Yes. We would not encourage vigilantism against the said assholes, but if it happens, it happens. So, also ending on a little bit of positive news, it seems like hospitalizations from COVID are falling. We could only hope that trend continues, but people, again, like we say, just, it's not gone away. Just keep your distance unless you absolutely have to be close to someone. It's not difficult. Wash your hands. Don't put your fingers all over your face when you've been in a public place, you know. Anyway, there was also there's also on the radio, I think Mike alluded when we were chatting about this beforehand, there's been rumors that they are trying to develop a COVID pill. That hasn't, I don't think it's even gone into the development stage yet. And of course, it looks like they're definitely going to be rolling out COVID boosters for people with compromised immunity, vulnerable people. So that's positive. Although, as we've said many times before, just release the patents, get the world vaccinated, because that's what we need to do. Anything else, Mike, or have we ranted enough for this week?
I think that's more than enough. These good people are probably bored of our voices.
Yes. Well, thank you for listening, and please do like and share this with a friend if you think that this was illuminating or comedic in any way.
Yeah. Subscribe. Make
Please
sure you subscribe.
Hit
that little bell.
It will make our day. One less arsehole in the world. And until next time, people, this has been Late Night Large, reminding you, petrol is highly flammable. Jerry cans go outside the house.